This conference will now be recorded.
And welcome to the Tuesday, July 13th TPB meeting. At this time, I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting and call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda, item 2A, is approval of the agenda. I make a motion to approve the agenda for the 13th day of July. Do I have a second? We have a second. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any discussion whatsoever? Seeing none, all in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 2B is the minutes from June the 8th. Everyone has had an opportunity to review those. They're in your package. I move that we approve the June 8th meeting minutes. And we have a second. Thank you, Jack. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 2C, Director's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of Transportation Policy Body, good afternoon. The first item on the Director's Report is my report is on CRISA funds. The staff had been reporting how most of the action items and discussions fall into three categories. One is long-range transportation plan, and the second is the short-range transportation plan, also called as transportation improvement program. And third is UPWP, the administration of staff and operations at WAMPO. So CRISA funds falls under the short-range transportation plan. Just to give a perspective, there are many things that happen in MPO. Always staff would like to provide you a perspective on where these things fall. As anything, if we go to any of these categories, sometimes there are nuances and rules and federal guidelines and so on. So Nick has compiled all those together, and then Nick will be presenting, with your permission, Chair, Nick is presenting on CRISA funds.
Thank you, Chad. Any questions on any of the discussions on the CRRSA federal funds? Go ahead.
As this committee, as the TPP has been informed previously, Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act funds have been made available to the WAMPO region in the amount of $3,789,097 to be distributed by WAMPO. These funds are available immediately, but must obligate by the end of fiscal year 2024 and be spent by the end of fiscal year 2029. Most of the rules governing them are the same as for the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. However, there is no non-federal match requirement for the funds and no year-specific obligation limitations, meaning they could be spent all in the first year, all in the fourth year, or spread evenly among the four, or any combination that you can think of. As with any other funds from the federal government, the project has to be in the TIP and the state transportation improvement program and consistent with the WAMPO MTP before funds are authorized, unless it's in the special authorization, which I'll get to later. And the funds cannot be used for costs that have already been incurred. So if there's been any obligation activity at all on the phase of the project that you want to use the funds for, then the funds cannot be used that way. And they cannot be used in place of other federal funds that have already been authorized. And they cannot be used towards the non-federal match requirement for other federal funds. And according to the FHWA guidance, it's to avoid trying to use minimal funds on any given project. So we would meaning favor would be shown to projects that are asking for a lot of money. Then we wind up with a small number of projects getting them, as opposed to giving a tiny bit to many projects. On June 30th, WAMPO issued a call for projects addressed via email to the administrative contact people for all of the projects in the WAMPO TIP and all the projects in the WAMPO MTP. We are accepting applications for funds to be used on TIP projects that either do not have federal funds on them currently or have far less federal funds on them than what they actually require, or projects that are already in the MTP but not in the TIP, but with these funds could be added to the TIP. Now, although our call for projects is not geared towards this, there is technically the ability to use CRR SAA funds for special authority uses, including preventive maintenance, routine maintenance, operations, personnel and contractor costs, debt service payments, and availability payments. Which availability payments would be like keeping a service on call, or other revenue losses. And although it was phrased as other revenue losses, it is the only category for which a revenue loss needs to be proven. No revenue loss needs to be proven to special authority for any of the other ones shown here. And a quick rundown on some other notes about the special authority. It is not required to be in the TIP, STIP, or MTP. It can cover costs incurred before project agreement. And this is a quote, must be necessary, reasonable, and allocable to the performance of the federal award. It may include things like preventive maintenance on non-federal aid highways, routine maintenance on any public road, or transit operating costs. The schedule for the aforementioned call for projects is that on June 30th, we sent out the applications and instructions, which mostly just ask for identifying the project by name and how much money is asked for it. And then the judgments of which projects to give funding to will largely be based off of that information, plus whatever scoring was done for the project when it was entered into the MTP. And then they have until Friday, July 30th to submit their applications to WAMPO. So far, we have received one, but we hope to receive more by the deadline. Then WAMPO will have 2 weeks in which to compile the applications into a format that was appropriate for the project selection committee. Then in late September, hopefully, the project selection committee meeting will take place and decide both on the use of these funds and on the use of any 2021 year-end balance funds that may be left over and can be used in 2022. And then at the October TPB meeting on October 12th, the TPB would vote on the recommendations of the project selection committee. And then if all goes according to plan, on December 14th, the TPB would give their approval to any TIP amendments that need to be made as a result of these funds, because of course, to add these funds to any project would require a TIP amendment. Any questions?
I appreciate the update that you've given us today, especially the schedule. What we're looking at, we talked about this with Chad and the executive committee, is we're not going to work this any different than we work anything. We're going to have the staff go through this and look at the different projects, and we'll have the TAC work at the project selection committee, and this funding is going to be just exactly like any other funding. There's not going to be a food fight on this at the end. What we want to do is just make sure that if we follow a process that we followed every time before, it's going to be fair to everyone. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that that's the direction we're going. We're going to follow this same process that we've always followed. So any questions on that? Okay, I'll turn it back over to Chad. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Nick. This schedule was compiled by Nick after coordinating with KDOT staff as well and FHWA staff as well. WAMPO staff needs to coordinate what is called as interagency consultation, to come up with rules or schedule or all of. So Nick did a good job in doing that, and thanks. Next item for you, for reporting for you is the quarterly activity report on UPWP. In your packets, the pages 5 through 18, there is a status report on what had been happening, how staff had been accomplishing tasks based on the UPWP that this body approved. So it's every quarter we provide this update and in the report and submits to KDOT. This report is, includes the tasks that are development of transportation improvement program, which Nick was working on, and also the data development and data maintenance for the WAMPO region. The Jordan is there. Jordan is working on, and then also the accounting, the audit assistance, as well as the reimbursement that Patty Sykes. Patty's here at the wall on the left side. So staff, Catherine, administrative tasks for Catherine, making sure the meetings are going. So all these tasks the staff is working on is documented in this and then reported. This is just an update for you every quarter in your packets.
Chad, this is Donna, Mayor of Mays. I'm wondering on this, I mean, I can see you've been very busy, but as we have, I notice on each task or activity, there is a budget amount. So how are you, or how do you know what the expenditures are for each activity, and how do you know your under budget, over budget, or just great? I guess that's the question. I mean, I see you've done lots of work, and I appreciate that. But I'm when I see budget, I'm thinking, how do I know how much you spend on all of these tasks?
Thank you, Mayor. Just last Friday, we had staff provided an update to the executive committee members on each of these tasks, how much was spent and how much is the balance. And then we have a good record and updated record. Patty helps a lot in updating these numbers. So I'm happy to provide that in an email to you, Mayor.
Okay, that'd be fine. And maybe like the next time, I suppose it'll be at the end of the year, perhaps when you put the budget amount, you could put at least what I'd say proposed, or whatever the expenditures are, whether, even though they're unaudited. And that way we'd have it all on the same report. But that's just thought. But yes, I would appreciate you supplying them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll update that from next meetings onwards. Thank you.
Any other questions on any of the director's report? Seeing none, I will move on to the bike pad.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chair, Catherine Chambers is here to request volunteers and the upcoming, she'll give an update on upcoming event on bike pit counts. Catherine?
Yes, some of you may have heard about this already, but I believe definitely more the merrier for this. But our annual pedestrian and bike count is coming up. It's going to be the September 23rd from 5 to 7 p.m. and September 25th from noon to 2 p.m. And we'll need volunteers to help with collecting data so that we can accurately represent bicycle and pedestrian activity in the area, so we can plan for future system improvements. Our volunteers will be stationed at 35 different locations. So if you or someone you know would be interested in volunteering, all of my information is on page 19 of your packets, or you can go straight to the WAMPO website to sign up. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all.
Thank you. Any questions on bike pad? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, public comments. Does anyone wish to speak on public comments today? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, new business. And we have Warren Porter, city administrator from the city of Rose Hill, is going to give us an update on Rose Hill land use transportation growth actions. Welcome.
Sorry. So which one do I hit? Right one, right here. So right up there. Right here. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Okay. There we go. All right. And then which one am I hitting to go forward then from there? You can just click on the screen. Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to visit with the transportation policy body about Rose Hill. My name is Warren Porter, and I'm the city administrator of Rose Hill, Kansas. Rose Hill is a community of approximately 4,000 persons. It was formed as a city in 1955 and has grown steadily from 273 persons in 1960. Similar to all communities represented within this room, we have transportation needs, but our needs are a little unique compared to most of the other communities in this room. Our needs can only be met locally by local actions. That's because if you look on a transportation map of the region and where Rose Hill sits into that, you will notice there are no state and federal highways that are adjacent or come through Rose Hill. In fact, we're about 8 to 10 miles from any direction of a state or federal highway. 400 to the north in Andover, K-15 in Derby to the west and south near Udall, or 77 highway to the east in Douglas. Think of how your community and how a highway has impacted the development of your residential and commercial development, particularly commercial growth. Without a highway, how would your community be different? There's an adage in marketing that a brand must say it 7 times before the message sticks with the consumer. You will hear today at least 7 times that Rose Hill has no direct highway access and that the local connectivity projects within Rose Hill to Rose Hill are our lifeline for staying relevant within the region. In 2004, the Rose Hill Industrial Park was platted, and today, in spite of no direct highway access, 2 regionally relevant businesses and industries have moved into Rose Hill and expanded there. Dynamic NC is an aerospace machining facility working with all the big names in the aerospace industry, including SpaceX. Viking Blast and War Systems make systems for preparing parts for the manufacturing process. Together, both of these industries on the south side of Rose Hill employ around 110 persons. There is an error on this slide, and it says most employees don't live in Wichita that work at the industrial park. That's an error. Most of the employees in the Rose Hill Industrial Park live in Wichita. It's hard to imagine, but the road goes both ways. That the road goes to Rose Hill and the road comes from Rose Hill. If you look at the regional commuter flows report, which is going to be addressed later, 1,874 Rose Hill residents work elsewhere, while 931 work in Rose Hill that reside elsewhere. The 3 largest inflow and outflow communities are Wichita, Derby, and Andover. But what might surprise you is that 84 persons in Derby drive to Rose Hill to work, while 89 persons in Rose Hill drive to Derby. The numbers are very, very close on that. And all of that traffic is on local roads because we have no highway access. In 2020, Rose Hill had the highest residential unit construction it's had in over 15 years, with 43 new units constructed. That's after a kind of a tough period after the Great Recession really hit the residential development community pretty hard. The two newest residential developments, Rockwood Falls and Sienna Ranch, were both developed to maximize connectivity with the Sedgwick County community. This connectivity is primarily on East 63rd Street South for Rockwood Falls and East 47th Street South for Sienna Ranch, or both of them can utilize Southwest Butler Road to 400 Highway. These communities were built and developed on local roads because of no highway access. I'm not sure you're counting how many times I've said that, but I'm hoping the message gets through. What we're talking about today, your decisions are our lifeblood. On the intermodal, we have Cook Airfield, which is actually located in Sedgwick County, less than 2 miles from the Rose Hill West city limits. We have two very active Burlington Northern Santa Fe railway lines through the heart of our community, which, like any other community, we're wrestling with quiet zones and excessive time for railroad blockages. When railroads first came through this country, this area, you wouldn't exist as a community without a railroad. Now sometimes it's hard to exist with the railroad. As a community, the Rose Hill School District has approximately 25% of its district located within Sedgwick County. Services, job, and education delivery really understands no artificial borders. We are interconnected more than anybody wants to realize or to admit. Anecdotally, my wife's great nephew was a junior last year at Valley Center High School. And during his junior year, he attended the Butler County Community College Health Academy program in Rose Hill during the school year. Butler County Community College is located at the Rose Hill High School and allows students to graduate with both a high school diploma and associate's degree upon graduation from Rose Hill High School. We are only about 8 miles or 8 minutes from the city limits of Derby to the Butler County Community College, and all the traffic must be on local roads because of no highways. One of the things I think as we go through, just like every other community, similar to almost everyone in here, we have developed a plan to utilize Rose Hill Road as our spine and network with access points to the school complex and commercial districts for pedestrian walking and bike path delivery. For phase 1 and phase 2 for us to connect the community up, we're looking for about $1.2 million to create these great spaces within the community. Due to the lack of highways, we're supporting the regional connectivity of the ARC 95 project to improve that connectivity. And additionally, our #1 priority remains the project that we call Southwest Butler Road, that Andover will call Andover Road, that Rose Hill will call Rose Hill Road, but to complete the projects that have already been started within this area. Rose Hill Road is our primary artery to access to the region, and it is our #1 priority. There's approximately 1.5 miles within this territory here that needs to be completed to connect Rose Hill up to the improvements that were completed just this year earlier with a new roundabout. And that is our #1 priority within the region. That provides us the greatest amount of connectivity, both for residential and job development. One of the things I'd like to say is, I think many people look at the suburban communities as maybe a parasite within the metro area. One of the things I'd like to comment on that is Rose Hill, according to the commuter traffic flow, provides 931 employees into Wichita. where would Wichita find an additional 931 employees in this labor market today? Additionally, because I think of the lack of the highways, we've had an underdevelopment of commercial and retail development. The state of Kansas Department of Commerce has done a study on push-pull factors. If you have a 1, you've recovered all the money that you should have had received as sales within the community. If you're over 1, you're pulling those sales from other communities. If you're under 1, you're losing your sales to other communities. Rose Hill's number is 0.33. We're surrounded by 3 communities that have a factor over 1. Wichita, Derby, and Andover. Our folks spend money in those communities on those roads. They are workers in those communities, and we provide those opportunities for those communities to use the best resource we have, which is our labor and our dollars. And so the roads that go both ways serve both of us. And with that, I'd like to remind you, this board is the most important thing for us for transportation because of the lack of highways. If anybody has any questions or anything else, I'd be happy to try to take them. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Porter. I appreciate it. And I understand you don't have any major highways in your area. You have no highways. But that's an important part of this board with WAMPO, because both county of Sedgwick County and Butler County use this board in order to be able to do projects out in their counties that do help communities like Rose Hill. So you just drove home that point very well. I appreciate it. Thank you. Next up is item 4B, and we have Valley Center with Brent Clark going to present. Welcome.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Beautiful day today. I'm Brent Clark, the proud city administrator in Valley Center. We're excited to present information and update on everything happening in Valley Center. And just like any great city administrator, I'm going to turn it over to an expert, which is Ryan Schrack, our community development director, who's going to give you the update and presentation. Ryan? I'm not sure where your PowerPoint is. All right, I'll pull it up.
Thank you, Brent. As I'm sure you can imagine, he is a pleasure to work with. All right, let's see here. Do I need to do the share? Sorry, I'll let you do that. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As Brent said, my name is Ryan Schrack, and I serve as the Community Development Director for the City of Valley Center. It's with great pride that I address you this afternoon and share information on our fair community and how we are working to make a difference, not only within our incorporated boundary, but also in our region as a whole. Founded in 1885, Valley Center is located in northern Sedgwick County, just west of Interstate 135. With a population of just over 7,300, the city encompasses approximately 7 square miles. During most of the 20th century, the leaders of Valley Center followed a predominantly isolationist policy, which caused a stagnation of growth in population, land development, and economic development. This regressive mindset started to change in the 1990s as the city engaged in multiple annexations and new residential developments. This growth has continued since then, and with the election and hiring of more progressive and visionary city leaders, Valley Center now stands on the precipice of monumental change that will take place in the coming months and years. Valley Center is experiencing population growth and is projected to continue to grow in the coming decade. Conservative estimates project the city's population growing by over 1,300 people by 2030. Within the past 3 years, the city was able to sell all 46 single-family lots that were placed in its land bank in 2017, has witnessed a steady increase in the number of building permits issued for new single-family homes, has seen the construction of several new multifamily residential developments, and has introduced 2 incentives to further stimulate the construction of new homes and the rehabilitation of existing housing stock. With the continual rising cost of housing, it is important to note where Valley Center stands in terms of housing affordability and occupancy. As noted in this slide, single-family owner-occupied housing is the predominant market in Valley Center. The current median home price in our community stands at $145,700. At this time, many households across a variety of income levels are competing for housing units that fall within their affordable price range. The combination of low inventory and interest rates with the desire of people to locate to Valley Center continues to drive the cost of housing skyward. Engaging with and attracting regional developers and builders to Valley Center is a key area of focus for city staff. Our proximity to I-135 and other major thoroughfares makes commuting to other areas in the region for work ideal for our residents. Currently, just over 45% of our entire population leave Valley Center and commute to other communities daily for work. Furthermore, over 85% of these commuters travel within 24 miles of Valley Center to work. Along with a large percentage of residents leaving Valley Center for work every day, just over 1,200 people make the commute into Valley Center for work on a daily basis. It is essential that our transportation infrastructure, both within the city and throughout the region, continues to improve in order to provide enhanced safety and efficiency for those who make the daily commute to and from Valley Center. Along with population growth, we are also experiencing growth economically in Valley Center. A couple of recent examples include the construction of a new Scooters coffee shop scheduled to open later this month, so make sure you make the drive to Valley Center to come visit Scooters, and the multi-million-dollar expansion of Builders First Source, which will lead to the addition of over 20 new jobs in our community and bring in new business from outside contractors and builders who will purchase building supplies at their expanded facility. Again, the need for improved local and regional street infrastructure will be even more critical when the expanded Builders First Source facility is open next year. I would be remiss if I did not also talk about the impact of the new Amazon fulfillment center that is nearing completion just outside our city limits in Park City. The Amazon facility will have a tremendous impact on our community and the region, as it will drive the demand for additional labor, housing, and use of local infrastructure. One of the upcoming street projects I will be discussing later in my presentation is tied directly to the new Amazon facility. In any community, it is essential to make and implement plans that provide for the deliberate and orderly growth and development of that community through achievable, actionable goals. The City of Valley Center has recently completed 2 such plans that will help steer the community over the next few years and make our city an even more desirable place to live, work, and play in the region. These plans include actions and goals that not only focus on the city itself, but will have a positive impact on the region as a whole. In late 2019, the city adopted a new pedestrian and bicycle master plan. This plan includes projects that could tie local paths to other networks in the surrounding region. Earlier this month, the city adopted a new strategic plan that includes goals and actions to be accomplished within the next 3 to 4 years. As part of these goals, there are measurable outcomes that will benefit not only the residents and businesses that call Valley Center home, but also provide stronger amenities, services, and housing that will enhance the available assets of the entire region. Next, I will discuss some of the upcoming projects and developments that will be taking place in Valley Center. While the majority of these projects will directly benefit our city, we believe that they will also positively influence the larger region. These projects will be outlined in 3 focus areas: street improvements, other infrastructure and quality of place improvements, and residential developments. The first street improvement is the Ford Street project, also known as 77th Street in other parts of Valley Center, Park City, and the county. This project will improve this main east to west main arterial road between the flood control ditch to Broadway Avenue. Included in this project is the realignment of Seneca Street with Ford and a roundabout at the intersection of Broadway and Ford that will help effectively move the increased traffic flow due to the new Amazon facility that is being built to the south of this intersection. Amazon is projecting that over 120 semi-trucks will daily traverse this intersection. improvements made to Ford Street will greatly benefit the city and region, as many commuters and businesses use this road to access the community via 135. Another element of this project will be the extension of the city's main water line down Ford Street that will tie in and serve planned residential developments off Ford Street. Funding for this over $4 million project, which just broke ground last week, is being shared between KDOT through an economic development grant, Valley Center, Park City, and Sedgwick County. The next two street improvements are on Meridian Avenue, which serves as the dominant north to south road in Valley Center. The first section discussed today is from Main Street to 5th Street. This area is located in one of the oldest sections of our community and will encompass a full depth replacement of the street. An important component of this project is not only the street work, but also a new walking path and critical improvements to the stormwater system in the area. Added stormwater infrastructure will alleviate on-street flooding that takes place in this section of the community whenever there is a rain event. This project is projected to cost just under $4 million and is being funded in part with assistance from WAMPO. The second section of Meridian to be improved, again with a full depth replacement, will be from the railroad tracks down to the southern city boundary, located south of the intersection of 69th Street and Meridian. Also funded in part by WAMPO, this project will greatly enhance the southern main entryway into our community and cost just over $4.6 million. As part of this project, one option that is currently being explored is the creation of a roundabout at the intersection of 69th and Meridian. This intersection is one of the most dangerous intersections in the entire community, and any improvements, whether it be a roundabout, traffic signaling, or some other option, will greatly enhance the traffic safety for both local and regional drivers that utilize this section of roadway in Valley Center. The last future street improvement project I will discuss is Seneca Street. This section of road between Ford and 5th Street is in dire need of both safety and physical upgrades. The southern end of the street will be realigned with Ford Street as part of the Ford Street project already discussed in this presentation. This realignment will create a standard four-way intersection and significantly improve safety for local and regional traffic that cross this intersection daily. New residential developments to be built on either side of this section of Seneca in the near future will further increase traffic on the street and drive the need for major improvements. The city is working with WAMPO to secure funding to assist with this proposed project. Currently, the city of Valley Center sells raw water to the city of Wichita and also buys potable water from Wichita. One of the most frequent deterrents to growth city staff hear from developers and individuals looking to move to Valley Center is our high cost of water. The city is in the process of moving forward with the construction of a water treatment plant and recently completed a treatment plant study and concept design. Design and planning work will continue with the goal of completing construction on a new water treatment plant within the next 3 to 4 years. The creation of our own water treatment plant will not only benefit our current residents and businesses, but also make Valley Center a more attractive place in the region for new investments by residential developers and commercial and industrial businesses and site selectors. One of the most exciting quality of place projects to be constructed in Valley Center will be the new Recreation and Aquatic Center. Last year, the existing outdoor community pool was not open due in part to COVID-19, but also because of the high costs associated with maintaining the now over 50-year-old facility. Led by a local grassroots campaign, a 1% local sales tax was passed during the November 2020 election, which will help fund the construction of a new recreation and aquatic center. Along with the local sales tax, the school district, which houses the local recreation commission, also passed a 2 mil property tax increase to help pay for the new facility. The actual project entails the construction of a new zero entry indoor pool, including a lazy river, gymnasium, and fitness and exercise areas, along with a substantial renovation to the existing outdoor pool. This collaborative project between the city, school district, and recreation commission will result in a world-class recreational facility that will be available to not only Valley Center residents, but open to the larger regional population. The city also anticipates that the addition of this amazing community amenity will lead to further demands for new housing in the Valley Center area. The demand for new housing, as discussed previously, already exists in not only our community, but throughout our region and nation. In Valley Center, we are working with developers on the creation of 3 new residential developments that will bring in new residents from across the region. The first development is Cedar Ridge Estates. Located east of Seneca and north of Ford, this subdivision includes the creation of 27 new single-family lots. Final platting will be completed by the beginning of August. The developer is anticipating that homes built in this neighborhood will be valued around $1 million. The next residential development will be located to the north of Ford Street, just east of Cedar Ridge Estates, currently being called Hidden Valley. This new development will create 64 single-family lots. The developer is working on their preliminary plat, which they hope to submit to the city's Planning and Zoning Board for approval during their August meeting. Homes built in this neighborhood will most likely be valued in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. It is anticipated that this development, along with Cedar Ridge Estates, will start building homes by early 2022. The last residential development is intriguing as it is located in the city's first approved TIF, or Tax Increment Financing District. The area shown in color on this slide includes single-family lots that were part of a previously platted but never developed neighborhood on the south, the creation of a new over 50-acre community park in the middle, and a to-be platted residential and commercial area to the north of the proposed park. A vast majority of the area to be developed is currently in the floodplain, which provided the justification for the creation of a TIF district. The developer will create a large detention pond shown on the slide in the park area and use the excavated dirt to raise adjacent land out of the floodplain. The property tax dollars allocated to the TIF fund will help offset the development costs associated with removing this area from the floodplain and building the necessary infrastructure for the nearly 300 new single-family lots shown on the map. Once fully platted and removed from the floodplain, this area will be a true game changer in both new residential and commercial properties available in our community. As a city, we are planning on advertising this area, along with the other new residential developments, to the larger regional real estate market. In closing, thank you for your time and invitation to speak this afternoon. As you can glean from this presentation, Valley Center has come a long way from where it was even just a few short years ago. We are making vast improvements and investments in projects that will impact not only our community, but also better connect us to our surrounding region. We want our community and our region to truly thrive. We are doing our part to not only make our community safer, stronger, and successful, but also striving to ensure that our region shines bright as an attractive place for sustained investment, development, and growth. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Do I have any questions? Well, when you started the presentation today, Brent told me you were going to tell me everything there was about Valley Center, and I want to correct that. I just happened to have a meeting with Ron Colbert last Friday, and so I want to make sure that everyone knows that an important event is coming to Valley Center on October 23rd, 24th, 25th, is it? 21st. Okay, 21st. And that is the moving wall. The Vietnam Wall is coming to Valley Center. So those of us that are Vietnam era veterans, we appreciate very much what Valley Center is doing and what Ron and his folks are doing. So I just wanted to put a plug in for that. So thank you very much. The other thing, we just heard two more important updates on what's happening in our communities within the WAMPO region. And again, I want to reiterate how much that I appreciate these, because it shows the importance of transportation and the impact of transportation has on the growth of those communities and the economic development of those communities. So everyone that's made presentations, I sincerely appreciate that, and those that are coming up, we look forward to those in the future, because as the TAC and the TPB make important decisions on transportation projects in the future, we want to hear from what is impacting each of the communities. So thanks again, I appreciate it. Next up is a really cool briefing on flow patterns. So I'll turn it over to Jordan. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Silvers, and I work with WAMPO, and I'm going to be talking about the commute flow patterns that are inside of your packets. Just as a little introduction, I'm going to be talking about inflow and outflow, and inflow is the number of workers coming into a city to work, and outflow is the number of workers leaving a city to work. And so right here we have sort of an overview of the entire region, and some of these lines. So the dotted red lines is between 1 and 20 people going back and forth. The solid red lines is between 20 and 100 people, and then the solid black lines are over 100 people going one way or the other. And you can see that the region is widely connected through these worker flows. And we can also see this on a wider level with the surrounding counties as well. So as you can see, WAMPO has a greater total inflow of workers than outflow, with 62,000 on inflow compared to the outflow of around 40,000. And it has roughly an internal of 200,000. So you can see that the internal is greater than both the inflow and outflow. Now note that this graphic also does include the entire city of Sedgwick, even though half of it lies within us and then half of it lies within Harvey County, which is not included in our region. So now that we've seen this, we'll kind of take a closer look at the individual cities on an overall level. And so right here we have this graph which kind of shows the total number of flow within each of the cities minus Wichita. Wichita is not included on this graph as the numbers are so big it would make everything look small, and we wouldn't want that proportionally. So right here you can see the total number of inflow, outflow, and internal, and then within that you can see each of the individual graphs, the bars of the internal, inflow, and outflow, so that you can compare them among the regions, cities. And we also have a total number figure at the end of the report as well. So this is one of the graphics that we've taken out of the report. There's one of these for each of the 22 cities in our region. So as you can see on the left, there is the inflow, which is the number of workers who live elsewhere coming into Wichita, so that's 81,000. The number of internal people who live in Wichita and work in Wichita, which is around 120,000. And then the people who live in Wichita and work elsewhere, which is around 56,000. And then we also have this map as well that kind of points in the direction of where people are going, along with an associated table with all of the numbers that we have gathered for each of the cities for the current city. So as you can see at the top, you know, for Derby going into Wichita is 5,400, while Wichita going to Derby is 2,400. And as I said before, this is we created this for all of the 22 cities, so they're all in that packet. And this report is also on the WAMPO website as well, so you can find it on there. And this is kind of the total combined inflow, internal, and outflow of each of the cities. And one thing to note here, as Mr. Warren Porter said as well, that the connectivity is huge. You can see that with the majority of these cities, the inflow and the outflow total greater than the internal flow. And this data was all picked up from the census based on W-2 forms. So there are some inaccuracies and some things like, you know, construction workers who their headquarters are in one place and that's where they would be considered to be workers. Whereas when they go out and do construction in other cities, we wouldn't be able to show that on these graphs. Thank you.
Any questions for Jordan? I'll take a look at it. Every city is listed in here, so you have an opportunity to see where your city, where the people are coming from and where they're going, and whether those that are staying inside the city. So thank you very much for the presentation today. I appreciate it. We'll go on to item 5 then, Executive Committee Report. First thing, I want to welcome everyone back. We've got a lot of people here in person today, and I appreciate that. City Council, I don't know because I can't see if any of them were able to come on, but I got a call just before the meeting and they were still in an executive session. So that's why we don't see anyone in the room from City of Wichita, but we wish them well. And some of them may be joining us now. I can't tell if they're on or not, but I want to welcome everyone back in person. I know that there's some of the folks out of Topeka and the federal folks that are still joining us remotely, and that's fine. We'll try and run both kind of a hybrid for a while until we can get back to normal operations. Talk a little bit about the executive committee. One of the things we talked about was the COVID funding, and you've already received a briefing on that, so I won't go into it any further. The other thing is that Chad provides the executive committee a number of slides on where we're at exactly on the budget and currently our spending. Well, if you look at where we were at before, we were overspending and we were going to go broke. And now we're kind of underspending. So we're going to try and work kind of a balance in that. We're not worried about it at this point, but our total funding is a little bit below what the curve is, so that's fine. And we look at it every single month. One of the things that we're going to look at a little bit more, he does provide us a number of slides on where our funding is at. And one of the things that we're going to add is kind of a balance sheet so that we can see exactly where we're at on spending and income. So the executive committee will start getting a little bit more information on that. The other thing that we discussed funding wise is the loan with the city of Wichita, and that keeps drawing down. We're very happy that it keeps drawing down. But what we're looking at is where we're going in the future with that. So right now, I think it's how much, $300,000 and some $1,000. So better than the $500,000 we were at not too long ago. So that's improving. We also talked a little bit about projects that aren't funded. The other thing we discussed, and I'll turn it over to Chad briefly to give us the status of the BKD consultant contract that's underway. So if you want to give us the status of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The consulting BKD was selected by the audit selection committee, and we are working to complete the contract. Kelly is here, and Kelly Rundle is also helping us with Michael Gerber completing the contract. And by next CPB, we should have your approval for the contract, and that will head staff to work on 2021 audit in January 2022, and then 2022, and then 2023, 3 years, 22, 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chad. And that was pretty well the executive committee. Did anyone on the executive committee have anything that I missed? Doesn't look like it. We'll move on to the next item, and that's active transportation. Are Alan or Jack online? He's here. Good. Welcome.
I'm Alan Kaler. I'm the co-chair of the Active Transportation Committee with Jack Brown. We're continuing to meet. We have been hearing presentations from the different communities in the region on what they're doing on their bike and ped planning. Very similar to what we heard today from Rose Hill and Valley Center. In fact, the last meeting we had Valley Center presenting their bike and ped plans to us. And one of the main things that we've heard from them so far is that all of the cities are looking for greater connectivity, just like we heard today, greater connectivity of their bike and pedestrian facilities within the region, which is obviously very appropriate for the WAMPO to learn about and focus on. We're going to continue to hear from more communities. Our next meeting is, I believe, September 1, Wednesday. And in fact, I'm going to ask Mr. Porter if we can get somebody from Rose Hill to talk to us about what they're doing in the bike and ped planning, as well as a couple of other communities. But we'd like to eventually hear from all of you. If we haven't contacted you already, we will be. If you want to get with us, we'd love to hear from you to see what you're doing on the bike and ped planning. Thank you.
Alan, thank you. We appreciate it. Next up, I know Tom is here in the room, so we'll turn it over to KDOT Wichita Metro. You got to hold it down. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to announce and remind everyone the new Kansas State Transportation Map is out. We publish these every 2 years, and occasionally some things change in the state, so it's not a bad idea to pick up a new one. I have a few here today, and you can also access those through the KDOT website, ksdot.org. and request one be sent to you. Last week, Governor Kelly and Secretary of Transportation Lorenz were in town on Wednesday and made announcements in Wichita about some projects that are advancing in the IKE program from the design pipeline to the construction pipeline. So this is a different program, 10-year program than we've done before, in that it's more responsive, and every year or two things change in it and can be adjusted to put projects in that might be needed to be on a faster timeline than a 10-year cycle. In the past, we picked all the projects at once in the first of the 10 years, and then we were kind of stuck with them for those 10 years and couldn't be very responsive then to economic needs of communities and other things that change in the transportation world. So we're excited about this, and they announced 24 expansion and modernization projects across the state, totaling $776 million in new projects. I think Brent would like to speak to some of those.
Well, thanks, Tom. I thought you were doing the Wichita one, but a big project for this region is the North Junction. That project was announced. Yeah. Of course, the accelerated portion of that project is going on right now to build the northbound ramp and southbound ramps. Also, projects announced, District 5 is 18 counties, but we have projects in this region also on K42, goes from Clomel down to Suppiesville. Down to Viola, we'll have 10-foot shoulders, and from Viola down to Suppiesville, we'll have 8-foot shoulders. US 160 in Sumner County from Oxford west to the Turnpike. That'll have it currently is a 24-foot roadway. It's the highest traffic count on a 24-foot roadway top in our district. It will receive 10-foot shoulders. That'll be a good addition. We have a multitude, at least 5 passing lane additions, 2 of them on US 50, one between Newton and Peabody, one between Newton and Halstead, 3 of them on US 54, 2 between Greensburg and Pratt, and 1 west of Mullenville. So all those projects were announced last week. We're looking forward to pretty soon knowing the dates for the local consult, and that'll be the next opportunity to enter the design pipeline.
Well, thanks, Brent and Tom. We appreciate it. But one of the things that I appreciate is that they're listening to us in Topeka. Between what the governor and Secretary Lorenz are doing and working with the Transportation Coalition, that we have some representatives here in the room working on that, Brett. And WAMPO, we're making a difference, and they're hearing what we're saying. And so that's how we got nice projects, and we're moving on with the next phase of the North Junction. And we're now looking at some expansion of the road on K42, which is the vital agriculture link here in this area. So just the fact that we're working as a team, both WAMPO and the Transportation Coalition and all of the leaders in the community, we're making a difference, and they're listening to us. So I want to thank everybody. Next up, we got KDOT is Mike Moriarty on the line? I don't hear from Mike. We'll move on to federal. I think Rick Buckland, I think I saw him up top.
Yes, thanks. Rick Backlund here. First up, just wanted to make a comment. You'd mentioned about the virtual meeting option. I just want to thank you all for doing that. I think that as we go forward, initially I was looking to come down there quarterly, but certainly being able to participate more frequently, monthly with the virtual option helps. And I see some other attendees as well that are making advantage of that. So I would definitely encourage that be considered as an option as we go forward. I am looking to come down there probably in the September timeframe to attend the meeting, or August, and then definitely we'll be down there for local consultation. A couple things. I know there's a lot of news going on about reauthorization and an infrastructure package. We're hopeful from what we're seeing and what's going on in Congress that we're going to have something meaningful by the fall. But you know, we're waiting as much as you all are. I know our administration is very hopeful that we're going to have something excellent to present and have a great package of monies and programs to support the needs we heard about earlier in this meeting. One thing I really wanted to mention as well, yesterday we closed on the notice of funding opportunity for the RAISE discretionary grants. So I know that we got a lot of interest in applications for this $1 billion. So hopefully Kansas will come out well in that solicitation. And, you know, as soon as I can get information on things, I'll certainly keep you all posted. A key thing I wanted to mention that I think has a real impact on folks here is the MUTCD, the Manual and Uniform Traffic Control Devices. The update that's going on, we had over 25,000 comments from around the country on that update. So it's going to be a Herculean task to digest all that. But a key focus in the update is going to be on you know, lower level functional streets, especially a focus on towns and cities. And I can tell you that that's a big focus of our administration. So we may see some really creative options that come out of the types of signings and options that the MUTCD allows. So I would encourage you all to stay tuned as we get updates and wind on what's happening with that update, because I think it's going to be potentially very significant. And when we talk about, you know, the STEP program and encouraging pedestrian and bikeways, but also just encouraging, you know, strong cities, local communities, I think hopefully the MUTCD will certainly be a step in promoting that. So just wanted to make mention of that as well. That's all I have. I'll open it to Cecily or Matt if there's anything that I missed, if you all have anything else to add.
Hey Rick, this is Cecily. I don't have anything else to add except that we are currently in the process of reviewing the STIP amendment. So we should have some information on the approval probably by the end of the week. But other than that, I have nothing else to add.
Great, thanks, Cecily. Any questions for me or for Federal Highways?
I don't see any, but Rick and Cecily, thank you very much. We appreciate the updates. Does anyone have any questions at all? Okay, did I miss anyone that would like to speak today? Doesn't sound like it. That we're a couple minutes past what I like to run an hour meeting, but we did pretty good. Thank you all, and we'll see you next month. That we'll adjourn at this time. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.